People think that he's drinking aloe vera just because of the consistency. And I'm no, it's
how do you get water thickened?
It's almost like a cornstarch.
So we used to buy a powder, which was terrible.
Yeah.
Like we just didn't know because we were noobs. And so we started with a powder to thicken it because he used to have to drink honey thick liquids. So like, imagine your water like slowly like pouring. Yeah. And it tasted terrible.
The diagnosis does mean a lot.
Yeah, and
but it doesn't mean there's any lack of joy,
now he can do
happiness,
nectar, and we're supposed to
and
be
adventure
trying
as a
regular
family.
when he's not.
I'm Seth Carnell, and this is the Go Shout Love podcast. Today's episode is with Daniel and Roxy, the parents to 3-year-old Sebastian, our feature kiddo for the month, who has a number of diagnoses, one of which is Vacterl Association. Don't know what that means? Well, you are not alone. I didn't either. But Daniel and Roxy do an excellent job of painting a picture for us surrounding the journey of how they got that diagnosis, what it means for Sebastian's development, and day-to-day life. Sebastian has 2 siblings, Leela, who is 6, and Alaric, who is also 3. That is right, Alaric and Sebastian are twins. And today we will get to hear something that we don't really come across often, which is a set of twins. Only one of them carries the diagnosis. If you haven't had a chance yet, go to our website or Facebook page and watch the video to see these siblings together. They are exactly what you would think 3-year-old twin boys would be like, and more, especially with an adoring big sister. This episode is full of stories, insights, and love, a lot of love. So we won't delay this anymore. Talking to Daniel and Roxy today is Josh Veach, our Executive Director of Go Shout Love, and Jessica Santo, our Family Relations Director and talented photographer. Please take a second to rate, review, and share this podcast on social media. Every kid we feature has a story, and that story deserves to be shared, so please help us share it.
Well, let's backtrack and let's start from the beginning a little bit, because I want to know all about your journey with Sebastian. So should we just start from the beginning a little? Well, first let me introduce you guys. We're here in Houston, Texas with Sebastian's parents, Roxy and Daniel. And they're 3 awesome kids. You want to introduce them, Mom? The kids?
Okay, so Leela's our firstborn. She's currently in kindergarten. She's 6. She is... she's hilarious. She's a carbon copy of her dad. And Alaric, we call him the middle child because he was born a minute before Sebastian, and he definitely has like middle child qualities. And he's dramatic and he's funny and
loves shopping, evidently.
Shopping?
We have this. He has these sunglasses he likes to wear, and yeah, it was just
like
a clip
big round Elton John
sunglasses. We call them his Elton glasses, yeah. And then Sebastian is just like a beast. He's small, but he's mighty. He's the happiest kid. Like you would never think everything that he's been through. And that's how you also know that it's like we're about to get out of the hospital is because he's got a smile plastered on his face, like just like as soon as he wakes up. You're like, oh, we're leaving soon.
It's a good day.
What is your hospital count up to now for 2023?
Oh, for 2023, we have gotten so lucky. Yeah, 1. Because we
and
have
last year,
9.
We got discharged on December 23rd, and then we had a long stretch out of the hospital up until the 19th
the
of
23rd
April
of every month, we were like...
I know, I was like, hey, it's, you're like, don't say it.
Don't say it. Don't
say it.
Because we did have some scares. Like in February, we thought we were headed to the hospital, and somehow, like with the treatments that we have, that we can do for him at home. Like ever since having oxygen at home was a big game changer. And then we had another scare right after the April stay. Like we thought we were headed back.
Yeah, it was pretty bad there for a second. I think we had something in March too where it was just kind of like a little...
Yeah.
So explain Sebastian's diagnosis for us the best that you can. There's a lot of words...
Oh my gosh.
With his diagnosis.
Every time we take him to the ER, it's like...
Can you flow through it? Can you list them all pretty well now?
Yeah.
It always impresses me how parents of medical kiddos can just
Yeah.
Their language is just
We
fascinating.
don't have to
that
do
they
it
do
as
this.
much anymore.
Well,
because they're keeping because they're keeping records of it a lot more, and there's a lot more of a kind of connected team that's helped us out lately.
Yeah. So he was born with the Vacterl Association. We did not know that at all until he was born. There was one doctor that did the
Anatomical.
the anatomy ultrasound, and he was like, this is something weird here, but like we can't really tell what it is because he's in a weird position. You might want to go get this test. I don't remember what the test is called, but because I was pregnant with twins, they were like, oh, we don't cover it because it would be considered a trial because you're twins. And they told me, based from what I researched and what I saw, I joined a bunch of Facebook groups like twins and then Vacterl, and from what I saw, it was basically to determine if your children had Down syndrome. And so I was like, well, like I don't care, like it's not, I don't need to take a test. Like whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And so it was a scheduled C-section, and I made it to the due date, which everybody was amazed by that because I'm under 5 feet and it was twins. They were both over 5 pounds, which was my goal, like, because then I knew they wouldn't go to the NICU. Of course, when Alaric came out, you heard all the crying. Sebastian came out, not a lot of crying. So they were like, we're just going to take him back. We're a little concerned. He's not crying. And then I probably lost consciousness. I had lost so much blood. I had a transfusion afterwards. But yeah, so all I remember is they said they wanted to check on him because he wasn't crying very much. He wasn't very loud. And then I just remember the picture of me in the hospital bed, and they were like, do you want to say bye? Because they had him in that travel incubator. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I was just out of it. My blood pressure was super low. That was before I got the transfusion, and I was just in and out of consciousness.
That's a lot for you to take in.
Yeah, so Dad. He was basically...
I was in another world, just mentally. It was just crazy.
Where do you go as a dad? You kind of have your two worlds are separating right now.
Yeah, because he did have to get transferred over, and then it was I was back in the back with them, and they said basically Dad, you want to come back over here? And they started explaining some things that were just kind of iffy with him, and had to keep watching him, and then trying to explain that to her as well. It was kind of running back and forth, and then saying, now we got to go, and here he is wheeling past. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah.
And we have so many pictures of Alaric in the hospital room with us. And then we got the one photo of the twins, and you had forgotten your phone. So one of the nurses was nice enough to take a photo of
this was already stressful to begin with.
Well, you know why? It's because you didn't join the smartphone era when you should have.
I should have been a trailblazer with that. It was embarrassing, but it was also
But she sent it. She took a picture with me and the two boys next to my head, and then sent it to you.
And it was awkward because they aren't really supposed to do that. Mm-hmm. And it was that my phone, I think, was in the room or something. But then by the time they shuttle us in there, I'm not thinking about anything.
There are significant moments happening all around you.
Yeah.
And who's supposed to know exactly where your phone is in that moment? That's kind of an unfair expectation.
Yeah. It was different too.
And you weren't counting on one of your babies leaving you either. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And with Leela, her pregnancy, they were going to let me try, but you could tell the doctor was basically inducing someone usually leads to a C-section anyway. So we kind of knew that was going to happen.
Relaxing.
But for some reason, that wasn't quite as stressful as already scheduling that C-section.
Yeah.
I was uncomfortable. I was more aware.
And then we were trying to do the natural birth with Leela, where we were sitting there. I'm reading a book and studying and relaxing and stuff. And then we're oh, she's kind of dilating. And maybe it'll happen.
Natural. It was induced.
Right. Right. Well, still.
But yeah, it was just way different. And then, he ended up getting taken away. And I think I was in the hospital, because of my blood loss and everything. I think I was in the hospital for 2 more days before I got to see him.
Yeah.
Because he was born the 13th, and I didn't see him till the 16th.
I think it was like 2021 or something, March of 2021. I went through and I started looking at...
COVID's still really going on.
Yeah. Well, I started researching. I started looking back and like trying to figure out how much of Sebastian's life was in the hospital or like broken up by these like hospital visits. And I made like, just totally nerded out and made like a big spreadsheet and like calculated how much percent of his life was in the hospital.
It was like 20 or 25, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't that bad. I think
Last
it was
year
like,
it was.
his percent? No.
Because
No.
I
It was
remember.
like, it was like 14 or 15, I think.
That's still pretty good.
Right,
Good
because when
GPG.
you think about it, it's like, you know, you're in the hospital like two days out of 10 or close to it or something. You know, like, that's not cool. And that was because we kind of had a lot of backlash after being so removed from a lot of people, trying to be like as safe as possible with every upper respiratory thing that was coming around.
Because that's his main concern, right?
Yes.
So let's explain that really quick.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, and I didn't even go into his
that's okay.
diagnoses and everything. He's so used to being like constantly
Like on
attached to
demand. He's
machinery
good.
that
we have,
And all he
This
wants
is
me to
life.
do is like put his water on the
yeah. Oh,
bedside
we're parents.
table.
Yeah.
We get it.
and I tried to put it in the bed with him and he was just not having it.
He's saying all done and making me just like...
Tell us about the diagnosis, when you got that, and then for someone who's never heard that term, what does that mean in layman's terms?
Okay. So when he was born, they took him to the other hospital, and I guess that's where they kind of examined him more thoroughly. And they called us because I think Daniel was still at the hospital with me at the time. And I remember he had his phone on like speaker, and I had my notes app open and my sister had her notes app open. And so they were telling us about Vacterl Association. And they were saying like, you have to have at least 3 items from this 7-letter acronym to be considered to have Vacterl Association. And so he had 3. One of them's gone. One of them is not as concerning right now. It's not as dangerous as his respiratory issue, which
It
is
wouldn't cause any hospital stays.
Yes. Yeah. I can talk about it off the record. I just don't want him to be attached to that, you know.
Sure.
So he has his, I think it was VSD, the little hole in his heart. That one closed up.
yeah.
But then it's the imperforate anus. That I did talk about it, you know, like his first year or 2, and then now that he's getting closer to being in school, I'm like kind of just removing stuff from the internet. But yeah, so he has an imperforate anus, and so his first 2 surgeries, he had for his he had it for his tracheomalacia. His
TE fistula,
yes, his
tracheoesophageal fistula.
yeah. Oh, there's so many different names for it because they said esophageal atresia. That was the first term that I heard, and that's what they kept saying.
Right, which is not the same.
Yes, and so he had a surgery for that, and then they put in an ostomy bag, a colostomy bag, and so that in 2020 they made him an artificial butthole, and kind of like they put electrodes on his butt just to see like where his muscles were tensing. And so,
I mean, you can pick that up in an ultrasound. Would they have? I mean, I guess you don't. Is it something you look for? You don't,
I don't.
But they didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway, I mean,
because they already thought that with my 8, I think I had them when I was 36, and twins. Like it was already like, you know, they were checking for everything, but I don't know. So then he had the letdown. So that we just kind of have to figure out a schedule with like his fiber and his laxatives. And since we're only going to start potty training them this summer, then we'll see like how much control he has, because only 15% of kids with his issue have control over their bowels. So we're like, can we please?
Full control.
Yeah.
He'll have some.
Yeah, he can feel when it's coming.
So yeah, not to get too in depth with it, but they had to retrack everything. Is that right? Like to exit.
We were lucky,
Yes.
honestly, because there's like, if it doesn't fully develop, if it doesn't open, then there's a possibility that the rectum and stuff is like, or the lower intestines is like super far away, but his was really pretty close. So whenever they were able to make him a new one, they were able to connect it easily.
Wow.
Yeah. And then we had to dilate for a year. I know. Yeah, I was just like...
To make it to where stuff could actually pass through.
Yeah, because I guess they kind of compared it to like getting your ear pierced, like it wants to close. Yeah, so
that's not something you thought you would be doing as a new mom.
Right, yeah.
For sure.
That was, and at the time, that was the most intense thing we were doing with him. It wasn't until...
ostomy stuff.
Yeah.
It was like a science project.
Oh,
I
yeah.
had a tackle box. Or like a toolbox that had all these things because you had to
like
change it. You had to
the
keep it clean.
Yeah, so they showed us how to do that. But then this amazing NICU nurse was like, you could just do a sideways diaper. And so we did, like, we were like, this is
Game changer.
Yeah, so we tried the bag for 1 month. And then we were like, no, like, this is miserable. It keeps coming undone. He keeps smelling like poop. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So we did the sideways diaper and just changed his diaper that way.
Yeah, we would do like 2 diapers, like the normal one and a sideways one. And it would just like...
This worked.
What?
Yeah.
Those NICU nurses,
They know
what they're doing.
Oh, yeah.
They're underappreciated.
Oh, yeah. But I'm sorry. So I'll talk about his, what they said, they called it esophageal atresia. But then like all the groups that I joined on Facebook are like TEF, like the esophageal fistula, tracheoesophageal fistula. So basically his trachea, you probably remember more of this because I was like, ooh. And so it's just like what I've read. But his trachea and his esophagus were connected and they were not supposed to be connected. So that was, I think that was his first surgery, wasn't it?
It had to be.
Yeah,
because he wouldn't have been able to.
He couldn't eat or drink. Yeah. Nothing would go into his stomach. So then for 2 weeks, he was tube fed and he had to be tranquilized enough, like sedated enough to where he wouldn't move. So he has a big old scar on the back of his head. And he used to be little, but you know, as you grow, as you grow, it grows with you. From just a bed sore because he could not move for 2 weeks. And I think it was the 3rd week that I got to hold him. And then you got to hold him.
How was that moment?
Well, I didn't even know I was going to get to hold him when we went in. Like, it was the 3rd week that he was in the NICU. And there was a different nurse. And she was like, do you want to hold him? And I was like, I can hold him now? And they were like, oh, yeah, you've never held him? So then it was just, yeah, I know. So I just thought I thought he was still so delicate. And I was still pretty scared because there kept being a bubble. And so it was like, every time we would go in, I would stand behind him whenever a doctor would approach because I was afraid of what they were going to tell us. It was just so new. And
it was, and it seemed like they were still trying to figure stuff out too.
Yeah, and it was new information for us. And then every time there were medical students, they all wanted to go see Sebastian. So it was fine for the most part, but...
They wanted to see Sebastian because he was so rare?
Yes.
Or, okay.
Because it was
to
rare.
a certain extent,
Because he was rare.
And it's like a perfect case study, kind of.
Yeah. From a student standpoint, there's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But that's still your child.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't want to, there's this fine line of like education, but not a lab rat. Like, don't look at my child.
Right.
Like, that would be difficult, I think.
So they would typically see us and come back later. But I remember, like, it would just be like 3 or 4 of these students, like, with the doctor, like really wanting to see him. And this was pre-COVID, and you know, everything was. It wasn't quite as, you know, they probably weren't allowed to do rounds like that, like during COVID, but.
But the closest doctor we got to was actually the surgeon. The surgery team somehow was like the ones that were. It seemed like they were our biggest supporters for a long time, which was interesting.
Yeah, so that's interesting, but I also feel like we had to do all of our research. Like, nobody was telling us. They weren't giving us resources. Right. They were giving us the names. They were giving us like surgical options. But anytime I would ask about like, you know, something regarding his future with whichever of the 3 conditions, they would be like, well, you know.
It's like cursory information, just like quick and kind of like this could happen or this could happen.
Yeah. So when I joined different Facebook groups, that's whenever I was like, okay, let me like making this list of questions, and Like we didn't see.
We didn't get a
Specialists.
pulmonologist,
Yeah.
like any type of specialist, for way too long.
Yeah, yeah,
And then it just kept getting more and more layers on it. You know, where we were just like, well, he could have immunology issues and.
yeah. And he had ENT, but it wasn't until he choked.
That was for the laryngeal cleft, but right, and that wasn't until we had like a severe like aspiration of that, right?
Yes.
So you guys were just new parents, and you weren't given a blueprint path on what to do with this rare kiddo.
Yeah. So when he had his first infection. It was rhinovirus, which is just a cold. When he was 5 months old, he ended up in the PICU, in the pediatric ICU, for 3 weeks. He was intubated and extubated 3 times, and they could not figure out why he couldn't stay extubated. They didn't know why, and he was nursing and everything normally. Like he had just started eating. No, he was 5 months old. We were about to start giving him solids, probably in like a month or so. But yeah, he was doing fine with the milk. He didn't seem like he was choking or anything, or aspirating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like nobody could figure out. And they kept putting him on albuterol, and with his tracheomalacia, so his trachea is very floppy. That's the tracheomalacia. When he inhales, inhaling is okay, exhaling is more work. Hi. And so like if he's under the weather at all, you can hear him breathing.
That's what.
Is that usually your first sign?
Yes.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So you said he has a lot of hospital stays. Hi, I see you. What's the first signs typically of, okay, I think we're probably heading in that direction?
His breathing. Yes.
More so now with the oxygen support that we have at home, it's whenever he's on oxygen and
he's still retracting a little bit. Yeah.
The first sign is like if all he's doing is breathing hard from his belly, and then once it starts kind of going up under the rib cage, then it's like, okay, this is bad.
If he wakes up at night coughing, that's whenever I'm like, shoot.
So is this an issue for his lungs, or for what's the main concern when he starts coughing and having these breathing issues?
Well, I don't know how you explain the
tracheomalacia. Yes, so it's airway clearance.
It's airway clearance. What happens is he builds up mucus.
No.
And
he could choke.
Well, it's not that. It's because there's like a weakness in his esophagus and stuff. It's like his trachea. Yeah, it's like mucus can go down, but when you cough normally, like our stuff opens up and it lets stuff out, but his is weaker and stuff, so it's just like it's kind of hitting up against something that doesn't let the mucus out.
Yeah, when he's coughing, it's closing.
Yeah, so it's like he gets clogged up. His airway gets clogged up.
Yeah,
so
and
the
so
saturation goes down, and his breathing rate and his heart rate goes up because he's fighting it. Then when he gets a fever too, paired with that, that's whenever it's like, because his body's working so hard, it seems like the fever starts, and it doesn't seem like he should really have a fever, like because of the infection or something, but it's because he's just pumping stuff like
usually if he has a fever, we can keep him out of the hospital, because if we deal with the fever, then his breathing and his heart rate.
But it's all from like trial and error and us figuring stuff out.
There's been a lot of trial and error.
So right now he mostly has oxygen support at night, or does it just kind of hit or miss when?
It's only if he's sick.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
We don't do it regularly.
Yeah.
We do.
Well, like right now, he's going to school. Like this is not his baseline, but it's also not like his being sick. It's like the residual stuff that, like
just an extended recovery from being sick. Yeah.
Yeah, because kids with tracheomalacia, or they even said tracheobronchiomalacia,
Yeah, they did.
They have a cough. Like they just, and so when he's like this, like we want to go out and take him places, but then ever since the pandemic, like your kid coughs in public and you're getting the side eye. We went, where were we?
We were at that marketplace down.
We were at the market. We were at this like marketplace over by my parents' house. Yeah. And we were in the lobby waiting to leave. and he coughed, and someone walked by and was like, "Yikes!" So I was like, "Is that tracheomalaysia?" You don't know what that is.
You don't know us? Quit judging us.
Yeah.
But it's true, but we get it also because, we're both in education. And there are kids that come to school when they should probably not be at school, and they're like hacking up a lung. And
yeah, but for him, it's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks, so we're like, there's no way he's contagious anymore. It's just that tracheomalaysia.
His numbers are good.
Yeah, he wears a pulse ox 95% of the time at night.
I would like you to describe the bond between your twin boys. And then also on that, what challenges arise raising twins who are so medically different?
Yes. So they get along probably 80% of the time, which is, I think, a lot for siblings.
That's pretty good.
For a while, I guess it comes in waves. At the moment, they're on the 80%. But yeah, so Alaric is very affectionate. So he, the other day, I think he came home from school, and Sebastian wasn't at school yet because he's still getting over being sick and needed extra treatments throughout the day. And so Alaric came home and was like, "Brother, hi, I missed you, I love you." And Sebastian will either be into that, or I think he kind of gets jealous. And that was a big issue in the fall when he had back-to-back hospital stays every 2 or 3 weeks. Because he was missing out on so much. And you could see that he was angry. And he was actually being pretty aggressive towards Alaric, and sometimes even Lila. And one of the doctors asked us if one of his medications made him that way. And we were like, okay, first of all, we didn't know that was a side effect.
Yeah, thanks for telling us.
I know,
now.
thanks. And secondly, we just thought that was his age and just him dealing with the emotions of being tied to a hospital bed for so long while his siblings are, they're FaceTiming and they're running back and forth.
Do you have a funny story about this?
I could tell you a million, but the main thing I think for a while, whenever he was first kind of, I guess, acting aggressively towards Alaric, is all he would have to do is raise up a toy above his head like this, and he would just scowl at him, and Alaric would just start screaming for us and crying and running away because he would throw something at him. And
I'm supposed to be the older brother here. Yeah. I'm a minute older, and yet I've got younger brother here.
Proportionally, he's way bigger. Alaric is. You think at this size, it would be like me and a 240-pound guy or something. But he terrifies him. Sebastian terrifies Alaric.
Because now the roles, it's flipped.
Kind of, but all he would have to do is hold up a
But yeah,
toy
he would.
and
He'd raise
scream.
up a toy, and Alaric would just go running. Or he'd be like, "He's trying to take my toy," and we'd be like, "Alaric, you're faster than him. Run!"
Take it back. Deal with your own stuff.
Well, 80% sounds like a
so
really
now,
solid number right
and
now.
I feel like it might be because they're together more right now. Whereas in the fall, so he had 9 hospitalizations last year, and 6 of them were just in the fall, from August to maybe it was July to December. It was just every 2 to 3 weeks.
It was a lot.
And so they were apart a lot, and I think I think his anger and jealousy kind of made it so that they were in a not getting along phase.
How did you guys as a family navigate that season? Because obviously you're a married couple, you've got an older daughter, and then you've got the twins. And so there's all these different bonds, and then you work, and the rest of life doesn't pause because you've got these hospital stays. So how do you navigate that?
We took a lot of days off at first.
Yeah,
we switched on and off being at the hospital.
Yes, and my schedule is more flexible, but I don't have the days because of maternity leave, and his schedule is not as flexible because he has actual students. He's like, you actually have actual classes to teach. Yeah. But you had the days. So that's why we would flip flop. But then my parents would help by picking up children, taking care of Alaric if needed. Because Lila could stay with you. She was more independent and she had school. But then his mom started coming down in her RV. And so she then, because, you know, our parents had to get somewhat comfortable with his machinery and his equipment and everything. So she was comfortable enough, like once Sebastian, if he was out of the PICU, I think is whenever she would start staying with him. So then we could both go to work and just swap off.
Yeah, she stayed up at it was a big change for us whenever my mom would stay up at the hospital.
Yes, because then we could both go to work, and then we would switch off staying nights
Yeah,
at
we
the
would stay
hospital.
the night.
And then she would come and relieve one of us in the morning.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just a lot of balls in the air. And, you know, like...
How do you guys maintain your outlook, your positive outlook during that time? I'm sure you had a kind of a drought of positivity. I mean, I think you would. But how do you guys maintain your outlook on that?
My opinion is you don't have time to think about it, so there's no point in kind of letting the negativity get in the way, because you're going nonstop, and then whether you're at the hospital or you're here with the other kids or whatever, it's like you're taking care of them, and then by the time you get a moment to sit down, you might say like, I'll sit down and relax for a second, watch a TV show or something. It's like you last like 5 minutes into it, and then you're just out. And then you wake up and do it all again.
So it's literally just keep going, keep going, keep
Well,
going.
we're both in education too, though, so it's kind of like we're always just taking care of kids.
Yeah. Well, for a while, I would be the person to take Sebastian to the ER, like, just because I'm so much smaller. And so, like, waiting in a chair, it's not as hard on me. Sleeping on the couch, it's not as hard on me. For a while, he noticed that it was affecting my mental health.
I think it would.
Yes. So I started accepting, okay, we need to, like, switch this out more often, because I found so much community, like, especially on Instagram, whenever anything of Sebastian's, hit the right audience. Like, I have made friends with caregivers in similar situations. I have made friends with young adults and teenagers in the same situation as Sebastian. So that has been a really hopeful thing to see. And, they also comment on the way I'm handling things. And, it's just really amazing to see it from both sides. And so whenever we were going through these are the things we might discuss with you, I was like, Daniel, like, I have this online community and I have you, but who do you talk to? Is it just me? Or do you talk to your friends? Do you talk to your friends too? And so I was interested in hearing his answer.
It's very interesting because we talk to a lot of dads, and you take over this because you talk to the dads too.
Well, I want to know the answer.
Yeah.
How did you respond to her?
I think I just blew it off. And
You did. You were like, I'm going to surprise you.
kept doing something else. Like, I don't know. I don't really.
Yeah, you're just so much more optimistic than I am.
Well, you have to be. I mean, he's progressing. He's getting bigger and stronger. It's like you can't. I had a kid today who was having some type of meltdown, and a student today that was having some type of meltdown in my class, and I was talking to him in the hallway, and I was like, he's had a lot of issues through the year, and I'm like, you've done better, you've gotten better. It's been longer times of you like not having these issues, and he's like, yeah, but it's tough and it hurts, and I'm like, yeah, it does, but you've gotten through it once, you can do it again. And I'm like, my son's, it's like easy to compare because like my son was out of the hospital almost for 4 months, which since 2021 was like, it was pretty close to a record, for him being out of the hospital, other than like COVID time, because he didn't see anybody. So other than surgeries, like he wasn't getting sick because we didn't expose him to anything. But that 4 months was a long stretch. And then when he was in the hospital, 3 nights and he's out. And
we were very anxious, nervous about his. I was glad that he got out because he got out the night that you won Teacher of the Year for your award ceremony. But we still had a lot of work to do at home. So like, it's awesome that he's out. Like whenever he gets discharged, we're so happy to be at home. But we've still got like 1 or 2 weeks of like
because the
lot
pattern
of difficult
can
nights.
start. He can relapse to a certain extent and there's always a possibility of pneumonia like sticking around, and just opening them up to another infection, and then we're just terrified of being stuck in that kind of like out for a couple of weeks and then back in and then out for a couple of weeks and then back in,
because
that was the fall.
Yeah, and one of his pulmonologists, because we've since switched to an aerodigestive team, but he was saying that when Sebastian is sick and has all that extra mucus, it's harder for him to swallow his liquids, and even the thickened liquids, and so he could aspirate. And so, that's like on top of all that, the laryngeal cleft.
So you were talking about this before we started recording the podcast, but can you tell us a little bit about the thickened liquids and what that looks like for him and why that's necessary?
Yes. So I think that his situation became a lot more, I don't want to say life-threatening, but it became more life-threatening. The night he was 1 in a couple months, so he's 14 months old, and they've been eating solid foods for a while. He'd been drinking regular fluids, and I remember I came home and I think I actually made dinner that night, and I found this recipe online. You remember exactly what it was. I do.
Yeah, it's pesto pasta.
Yeah, pesto pasta, and I guess he has the biggest appetite, and people are always surprised to see that because he's got the G-tube, and they're like, oh, he eats by mouth, and I'm like, boy, skinny. Does he eat. Yeah,
it's wiry.
And so back then, he would stuff his face. We had to sit with, one of us had to sit with him when they were eating, and he ate too quickly. I didn't cut up the food small enough. You can go back and see it a million different ways, but he was choking. And Norton, it had happened before, and it's called a stucky. So it had happened with eggs. And so he'll start breathing like this, and he'll tilt his chin up, and you see him retracting. And so the way that I had been dealing with it was we would pat him, he would cough it up. But so this time I was patting him. I'm sorry, I know. It's a hard story. I was patting him and he started stiffening up, and I was and I flipped him over and started patting him, and he just I was trying to get it out with my finger, and I could feel him stiffening up, and I could feel his jaw shutting on my finger. And I started screaming for you. And so then you took him, and his mom was visiting at the time, and she was in the RV, and his family runs a volunteer fire department. And so they're all trained with, they've got CPR training, everything. So we ran out there and we were banging on her RV. I think she had just spent the day taking care of him. And so usually that'll wear her out. And so she was in the RV asleep. And so we were banging on the RV, screaming. He put Sebastian on the hood of the car and started doing CPR, rescue breathing. I don't know if it's CPR or rescue breathing. And so I would call 911, and I was screaming into the phone. And the lady was like, you have to calm down. I can't understand you. And I was I could see it in my head. This is always what you see on TV, and it's exactly what's happening. So he started coughing. He started coughing, and you could tell that there was still something stuck.
I couldn't do the breathing until I knew that there was some type of...
You reached in there, didn't you?
Yeah, his jaw was closed tight, and I finally just had to jam my finger down in there and clear something out.
Yeah.
And then...
Did you feel... You felt it.
Yeah, I felt it. I felt it finally get out, but his jaw was wired shut. It was so tight,
it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And so because I'm just all into just torturing myself, we have a Ring camera in the front, and I wanted to know how long he was without oxygen. So
because fear of brain damage.
Yes, that was So the ambulance came and got us. He was breathing, but his saturation was still really low. While we were in the ambulance on the way to the hospital, he coughed up some more food, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, great! He's getting everything out. This is gonna be fine." So when we get there, they do an X-ray, and he's got food in his lungs. So they had to take him into the OR, and they told me that it wasn't gonna take long. And I think it took like 4 hours. It was terrifying.
But that's how we learned about his
Laryngeal cleft.
and possible aspiration.
Yes. So while he was in the OR, like the ENT came out after like 4 hours, and he looked distraught. And I was just like, and he was like, we got everything out. He had these tiny green things, and it was freaking pesto. Like, he had the pesto and chunks of pasta like in his lungs. And I was like, there's no way that he like swallowed, that. I was like, that had to have been from us, like, because we were hitting his back, so, like trying to get him to stop choking. I was like, that had to be that we like somehow, because there's just no way that
Like
he
we
breathed
physically
and
made
ate
it
that.
happen.
Yeah. Because he was, at first he was just acting like he had a stucky. And so anyway, the ENT came out because he was like, he almost choked again on the table. And like, so like that night, Sebastian basically almost died twice. And so we were in the hospital for 3 weeks because they were trying to figure out, they said he had dysphagia, that he could not swallow properly. So we were in the hospital for 3 weeks while they kind of figured out like.
We thought that was it. We thought because of his like tracheal malacia and D fistula and stuff that it was just like a weakened esophagus and stuff. So he was having trouble swallowing, and it was basically like cut his food in smaller bites and make sure he doesn't eat too fast.
No, we pureed everything for months.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, that's kind of like what we were thinking of. He's just like having trouble swallowing and stuff, and the aspiration. It's like, I don't know. Everything was.
Yeah,
new.
and then it's just such a mystery to me that he had eaten solids and been drinking fluids for months, and he hadn't gotten sick until.
But then there's the idea of something called silent aspirations, where it's like,
Yes.
where you just get like tiny bits of stuff a little bit at a time. You don't think about it.
And they brought that up, but the
Yeah.
fact that he wasn't getting sick frequently, because at that point he had been hospitalized with rhinovirus at 5 months old. He had all of the surgeries and whatever that he had, but he hadn't been in the PICU until after that all
Right.
happened, which is
And
like,
in this-
and I don't know how many times I've Googled like things that cause a laryngeal cleft, like, like not being born with it, like could it happen, just like come about later, like.
Yeah, and we thought initially like, well, it couldn't have been this because of that.
Yeah, and it's.
But then.
Yeah, it's just his little body is a mystery, and so after that, we had we had the Vacterl Association, the 3 diagnoses that went on top of that: laryngeal cleft, tracheal malacia, and then he kept getting sick after that. He got sick. That was in January. He got sick in March. He got sick in June. And then it was like October, December. And so they said that he has asthma. Like they didn't do an official test, so they called it reactive airway disease. So just like his little lungs, they barely have enough time to heal. And and that's what got him in the fall. Leela started kindergarten. She brought all the germs home. And she's wonderful. Like, she's 6 and she wore that mask to school. And, you take it off, you forget. But for the most part, her teacher would send pictures home or pictures through like their little learning app. And you would see her with that mask on.
To be the one.
Yeah.
Like the one kid or 2
because
kids.
some of the kids
at
started
first.
the year, but yeah. And now, like, I put it on her. She wears it. So I tell her, just wear it if you're crowded, if you're sitting next to a lot of kids, But, she's 6, so she tried her best.
And she still wears it in gymnastics.
Yeah,
like,
because
still-
that's a pretty crowded class.
But we even know that that's not, it's not like a foolproof
Yes,
thing, but
yeah.
it's
But
pretty,
it kept her fingers out of her mouth, and that definitely
it's like a
helped
germ
a lot.
nightmare.
Yes, yeah.
So still no answer as to really what happened or what caused that choking episode.
They put him in speech therapy after that, which was
Yeah, an insurance nightmare.
Yes. Daniel does a lot of the not so much manual labor, but yes, you do more of the like treatments, and I do a lot of the insurance calls and medical equipment refilling.
And I think part of that too is you have a little bit more flexibility
my schedule.
with your schedule.
Mm-hmm. I don't have kids in my room all the time.
And maybe more patience with that stuff because
I'm with you.
Yes, I had to do. So he was supposed to be getting speech therapy, and it started out great. Like they were supposed to practice with his chewing and his swallowing, and then for some reason, some of his speech therapy was covered, and then sometimes we'd get like a $5,000 bill in the mail, and so this continued on for a few months, and then we were like, and it wasn't. Every time I called someone, they were like, "Oh yeah, this shouldn't be the case. We'll run it through again." And so I was like, "Okay, it's gonna be fine," but it kept happening. So we finally, his speech therapist was either gonna graduate him or move him down to one class a week, but we ended up just having to pull him because of the insurance nightmare. It took a full year, and I'm only like 90 to 95% sure that it's resolved right now, because the letter that they sent me, you just have to like learn you learn the medical language, you learn the insurance language.
Oh, this should have been coded this way.
it's the coding.
Exactly.
It was like a coding
It was
issue.
the coding.
I wish we could tell you that this is the first time we've heard that. We've yet to meet a family that doesn't have a nightmare story about dealing with insurance. It's
Yes.
so sad.
It could be one doctor, one hospital visit.
Because it was supposed to be rehabilitative, and they coded it as actual speech therapy, like for language. And so then they were like,
Once it
"You
was
need
bad.
you need to get a different prescription." And so I asked the doctor, but it was like an ER doctor that did it, and then they were like, "But it's expired, so I can't do it." And it was just so much back and forth.
Yeah.
And so I wrote. I got all his paperwork, because they sent me a letter, because I had kept, what is it called? I had appealed, and then I disputed, and, I went through all these different steps, called, talked to people online. One of the people that I met on Instagram through the community, through the medically complex child community, works in insurance, and she was like, "You need
Oh my gosh.
call the speech therapy company. They need to send you this and this," and it was called, I think, a UB10 or I want to say UB40, but I think that's the
That's
band.
totally that's what I was thinking. It's gotta be. Fixes everything.
Yeah, and I had a lot of red wine around then.
That is their song. That's right. I was trying to think of what's the one I know.
Yes. But so I did. I got the paperwork that she said. I got extra paperwork. I made photocopies of everything. I wrote a letter. I put his photo on the letter, and it was a 70-page fax, I believe.
Of the records.
Yeah. Was it 70 pages? I think it was like 50. No, it wasn't 70 pages. Sorry. I think it was like 30 pages. Yeah, it was 30 pages. It cost me $70 because I wanted to get it done, and so I chose a bad place to go. Anyway, the letter that they replied with was a copy of something that I had sent them, and I was like, but then I got some more information on the Aetna website that was better than that letter, because I was like, I'm about to strangle someone. It's like all they did was repeat back to me, because they were like, "We're closing your case unless you send us this information." So I sent them that information. But yeah, I'm like, seriously, like he was in and out of the hospital how many times? Like, so we're dealing with, current hospitalizations, current bills, and then this like unresolved issue on top of that for like,
And then Hurricane Harvey before all of this happened. So
Yes.
your guys' home was hit by Hurricane Harvey, and you had to deal with a bunch of flooding. So you guys have been dealing with
drama.
drama. How do you guys stay positive through this?
I mean, our family, like without our family's help, we just, because we lived with my parents for 6 months. And
Family's
that was,
important.
yes.
Yeah.
And my parents do not like pets. So for them to house us, and at the time we only had 1 cat and 1 dog, but they
And
just.
1 child.
Yes, but they didn't mind that part at all. And then Daniel's mom coming down, like, just, you know, as often as we needed her. And she liked staying in her RV because it was like her own little home out there, and the kids loved it too. But, you know, we, with their help and like, you know,
support.
And like we try to go out and do things together without the children, and we're somewhat successful. Like every few months we get to do.
Well, and that's, you guys had mentioned that too about your month with Go Shout Love, hoping to maybe get you guys outside of the hospital window view and to do some fun things.
Yes.
So what are some things on Sebastian's adventure bucket list you think he would enjoy doing?
I know what
So
it,
we,
You've already got it planned
Well-
out, road mapped
well,
and all.
this summer's gonna
I
be
know.
good.
our trip last summer was cut short, and that was not a bucket list item, but that's our fear with traveling. Obviously, is our trips getting cut short.
'Cause they
And
have the Miami trip.
yes, yeah, we went. My family in Miami hadn't met the boys because of him being in the NICU, and then COVID. So in 2021, we drove down there, and they were under the weather-ish,
Like
and so were my cousin's kids.
everybody, all the kids were like sick at the
Yeah.
time. We're like, here we are.
And this was when we were becoming familiar with how things start with him. Like, and we took him to the ER in Miami, and they were like, oh no, he's just breathing fast because he's trying to fight this illness. And I was like, okay, but he's also got the tracheomalacia. And they were like, oh yes. But I was just like, you guys are, this is so
idiots.
Miami right now.
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I lived there for a little bit, and I visited on and off growing up, and I was just like, this is so Miami. No offense to anyone from Miami, our family's there, and we love them. I was just like, this is just frustrating. And it was just like in the Bahamas, whenever we were trying to get on an earlier flight because he was sick, the lady goes, he seems okay right now.
Yeah, seems fine to me.
Who
Looks
says
good.
that?
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
People
I
that
just-
have no concept.
Yeah, like I can't imagine a world in which I would pretend to know what's going on in your child's body, and to the point where I would have an opinion about it. Like, it just
Yes.
seems like what?
So now he's not had his G-tube for a year yet, and now, like, that's just what I flash because I'm like, here, it's something that you can see, because he looks relatively like he looks like a normal kid on the smaller side, like, you know,
Most
he's got
people
little
think he's
quirks that, like, if you
younger
know
than-
him, if you know that he's been struggling, like, you can be like, okay, but yeah, like, you wouldn't know.
Just
So
a skinny
whenever I take him somewhere and I'm concerned, or I need to talk about how I'm concerned, I'm like, look, there, G-tube, something you can
Is
see,
that
because you
enough?
can't see his lungs. Yeah, you can't see his trachea. But yeah, so that was probably like my most frustrating moment with him, was in the Bahamas airport, and they're like, he looks fine right now. I'm like, yeah, give it about 1 more hour, you'll see him
Yeah.
retracting.
Before we wrap up, I want to shift gears for just a second, if that's okay. Kind of back to just like your family dynamics. Daniel, how would you describe, earlier before we got on here, you guys have known each other a long time. You mentioned that you guys met in you've known each other since high school, and then some years went by, kind of reconnected and ended up getting married. But obviously you've had a lot of water under the bridge in this journey together. And I'm curious, when you think of Roxy now, like, what have you seen in her over the years, and what has she taught you through this journey?
It's not just this journey. It's I think she's amazing and capable of doing anything and everything that she puts her mind to, and she doesn't ever think about it like I'm doing something special or whatever. She just does things and takes care of business, and impressive. She through this, you can list all the challenges that we've had with kids and stuff like that. But she's changed her career like, I don't know. I could say 3 times or something. Like, she was a teacher, then she was a math specialist. Actually, my boss, which I guess may be a challenge to begin with. And then left education for a little bit, and like
Sort of. I taught online.
yeah, which is
Public
a changing
I love
career
public
for-
education.
Yeah, and then got a master's in information science. is it?
Library and information
Became a
science.
librarian. Went to elementary school, and then back to a different district elementary school, then an in-district elementary school, and then the middle school that we actually started working at together. That she kind of got me a job at the beginning. I say kind of, but probably totally.
This either sounds impressive or very ADHD of me.
It's not, but I'm saying like people aren't capable of doing that very often. I mean, you can't just like pair all this stuff in like normal life and like a full marriage and parenting and stuff with like getting a master's. I feel like I don't know, the studying and stuff was time consuming. Now she's now she's like teaching herself to code to a certain extent. And all this stuff, it's like she doesn't ever talk about it like it's a big deal, the insurance stuff. I couldn't do that. That's like, I could, but it wouldn't go smoothly. And she takes care of so much stuff for these kids nonstop, and it's like never ending. I can see that. Well, I've known her for so long. I always knew that she was a capable person, but she impresses me a lot more the more complicated things get. And there are some things that I just have to let her take care of to a certain extent. And then there are a lot of things that I just take care of, without her having to worry about it. But we work together well, I think, and she impresses me because of the fact that she doesn't think that what she's done is impressive to a certain extent. Mm-hmm. Everything that we know about the kids, everything that we know about Sebastian and stuff like that, like she said, we didn't get a roadmap. There wasn't like, here's your little handbook and stuff. Half of it was from her doing research and then us going through steps that we had to take the initiative to do, not just some doctor somewhere saying like, hey, you should go check this out. It was like, because she found out that you could check this stuff out.
Right.
I wouldn't have done that. I couldn't have. I'm so just ignorant with the way the internet works to a certain extent that, I give her a hard time sometimes because of time spent on the phone. But then Sebastian's probably as good as he is right now because of her.
Yeah.
And you don't want to take credit for that, but that's the truth.
That library science degree coming in handy.
Please, you were good at that. You were good at that stuff before that.
What about you as seeing a change in him as a dad with becoming a father and then having Sebastian and Alaric? How has he changed since fatherhood?
So I know you said like we reconnected after college, but we were friends all through college. We went to rival schools, but we stayed in touch.
If you can survive that,
I know.
you can survive anything, right?
Yeah, especially when it's
I
Texas
know.
A&M
I think
UT.
your dad gives me more grief than.
Oh yeah, for sure.
No, we stayed in touch, and I crushed on him on and off throughout all of that. But we couldn't be together in college because I lived I had such a sheltered upbringing, and he did not. And you're like, you were just a little bad boy.
Okay. Whatever.
The bandana and yeah.
Bandana.
My dad,
man.
my dad did not like it when I would hang out with Daniel because he said that he was too manly. He's like, Daniel's too manly. Why don't you? So
like
This episode's getting good.
Our-
now.
I'm like 18 with like some sideburns and
Yeah,
or something.
obviously.
Get off my lawn.
I know.
But he was like my most mature friend probably, and it's funny. It made my dad uncomfortable, but like we kept in touch throughout college, and then graduation weekend I was like, hey, we're probably never gonna hang out again. Like, do you want to? Like, I'm gonna be in town for a friend's graduation. Do you want to hang out? And so that's when we started dating, and we were very independent. Like, we did a lot of stuff with our own friends. We hung out together with our friends. But I mean, becoming parents.
We still are.
Yes, yeah, we do. I'm very much an introvert, and he is what, like an extroverted introvert.
Whatever.
He's much more social than I am, is what I'm trying to say. And he loves going to his friend's house and playing board games. And he's like, hey, is it cool if I do that? I'm like, you don't have to ask me. Yes, it's fine. And, as long as like we can put the kids down, or, because right now the boys are insane and he's like the miracle worker with them. But he is just like, knowing him in high school and in college, and when we were in our 20s, he's just matured and become just like so much more responsible, and he's the fun parent, and the kids, they're climbing all over him all the time, and
You guys have really watched each other grow up.
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
Since we were 15, we've known each other, and
I used to stick pen caps in your hair.
yes, you did. That's how we met. He sat behind me in English, but yeah, no, he's that's why I wonder, because he's always my rock through everything. Because, like, whenever we have ER stays, like I was saying, I used to be the one that would take Sebastian, and now we alternate. Because he knew, like, he could see that it was just wearing on me. But I would, do everything I needed to do. I'd put on a brave face, whatever. And then as soon as, like, he would come switch places with me, I'd just, like, lose it. Because, like, he's the rock, and if as long as I'm in his arms, or he's giving me a big hug, like everything's gonna be okay. He's the optimistic, like big picture guy.
And it reminds me too what you just said earlier about how when the doctors came in the room, you would just stand behind him because you were scared.
Yeah. So he has enabled our kids to have as much fun as they could through these like just difficult times. Things. The last year has probably, things are like almost back to normal, or I'm sorry. All the interruptions.
No, that's good. That's real life. That's what we do.
And I've heard enough about me anyway.
So
I have to match you.
come here, Sebastian. Let's talk about you for a second. What are the things that Sebastian loves the most? What makes him the happiest?
1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
That's good.
You are a really good counter. Do you know your ABCs?
I, B, T, E, G, I, J, K, L, M, N, P. Who's that?
That's a chord.
Oh, you tell me.
Oh, nope, we're not gonna.
Oh, he thinks
pull
the
that.
cord goes to your tummy.
Oh, no, it doesn't go to my tummy. Do you have a cord that goes to your tummy?
What's on your tummy?
You have a tube that goes to your tummy, don't you? Right in there.
What is it?
What's that called?
Expito.
Your G tube?
Oh, the excavators. We got those because he was,
yes,
the healing process was very painful, and he was
Those
very
things are so
afraid of
great.
it. So that we got Cars ones because he
That's
like
so on
loves
the
Disney
table.
cars,
Showing off little
Yeah.
ham.
and it helped him get over
Do you
it.
like Disney
Daniel
cars?
also called it his superpower.
Oh, hold on.
We called it that for a little
That's
bit.
how we hear. See this microphone right here? You can
It's
say,
definitely
hi, I'm
helpful.
Sebastian.
Hi, Sebastian.
I'm Sebastian.
At Go Shout Love, we do amazing things for amazing families with kids on rare medical journeys. Each month, we shout love for families through the sale of creative apparel inspired by the kids. This month's Every Breath, a Gift design is inspired by Sebastian, a strong and stubborn, sand-loving 3-year-old from Houston, Texas, whose constant respiratory struggles gives us a fresh perspective on the power of each breath. Every purchase in July, will go toward the purchase of a portable oxygen concentrator and private swim lessons for Sebastian. Visit our website at goshout.love to support Sebastian through the purchase of a t-shirt, hat, tank top, hoodie, or other items.